Welcome back. Okay, I don't know why I just sang that. Probably because I am recording this and it is the end of 2024. If you're listening to this at go live date, it is December of 2024. We are nearing the end of the year. For me, that means that I have put out an episode on the pod every single week all year long. And my goal was 52 episodes in 52 weeks, and I am going to hit it. And I'm pumped. I'm pumped. And I've been doing my end of year planning, and I have grown 30% from last year. And that's really exciting. And I'm projecting to grow more than 30% this next year. So I hope that you're taking some time to reflect and then plan for the next year. And in an upcoming episode, I will walk through my process on that. But what I'm doing right now is taking a look into my little HR crystal ball on what I think is going to be the hot topics in 2025. As we approach the new year, there's several key trends that are poised to reshape the HR landscape. Staying informed and prepared for these developments is crucial for organizations aiming to remain competitive and foster a thriving workplace. So what I'm going to do is go through the top trends that I'm seeing and give just a couple of quick actionable ways that I think businesses can focus on the trend in the new year. I've already done an episode on this first one. So if you want to go a deep dive in this, I'd go back a few episodes. I'll link it in the show notes on my episode on Don't Waste the Chaos, focusing on AI. But the first trend that I think is going to continue to be super hot in 25 is the integration of artificial intelligence and automation. Now, if you listen to my episode, you'll hear me preach. This has been going on for years in HR. There's been a ton of technological advances in human resources and payroll, specifically in the HR tech space. But some folks are late to the party, and that's totally fine. Now individuals are seeing the need and the demand. AI and automation are transforming HR functions from recruitment all the way to performance management. I like to call it cradle to grave recruitment to termination. So tools like AI powered agents assist in creating job descriptions, sourcing candidates, scheduling interviews, streamlining the hiring process, the onboarding process, the performance management process, the learning and development process. It's all in there. So there's a couple of actionable ways that I'm going to recommend that you focus on this trend in 2025. The first is, if you haven't already, invest in AI powered tools using affordable platforms like I use ChatGPT, OpenAI every single day in my business. And I use it every time I'm working with my clients. That is like just the baseline. I at first used the free version for well over a year. It was great. Just a month ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to invest in the paid version for me and my team. It's $600 a month for me and one other person to be on this. I'm probably going to spend more so everybody on my team can use it. It's amazing. You can upload docs, ask for comparisons, build metrics tables. So good. So that's first and foremost, but also applicant tracking systems. There are so many individuals who utilize an HR payroll system, but they don't use the ATS module or the applicant tracking system module on it. Do this, add this module on. It is so worth it. If you're doing any type of consistent hiring, and I would say even one person a month, even if you're hiring one person a month, this is going to change your life. Even 6 a year, it's going to change your life. It's going to help you streamline hiring, automate repetitive tasks, and provide HR support. And I would also say one of the things that I hear the most in the candidate journey when I'm looking at survey data is that candidates are not getting responded to. And like, for shame, we all know when we've responded or applied to jobs that this is like a big time. You know, we're talking to our spouse, like, oh my gosh, this is going to change our life. We're talking to our friends, I've applied for this job. And then we never hear back from more than 70% of the times that we send a resume out there. Like, you will upgrade as an HR pro if you're just setting automated responses. Hey, we got your resume. Here's what happens in the next step of the process. Magic. Okay. Next one is when it comes to AI, automate routine processes, automate your payroll. If you're not already, wow, the amount of lift you are going to feel and see is huge. Let's automate that payroll. Let's automate employee onboarding. And when I'm talking about this, even if you're just using QuickBooks, which I used for my first year and a half of business, I just used QuickBooks and I used the HR portion of QuickBooks. Now, here's what I would say. some of these tools that are built around, it's a payroll tool, it's an accounting tool. The HR portion is kind of crappy. It's going to get you further down the road than nothing, but that's not what it's made for. I use Gusto now. I've actually got a code if you want some money off. I would love to talk to you about that because Gusto is so simple, so incredibly affordable. So I'd love to help you set up with that. But we can also, when it comes to employee onboarding, essentially, if you've got the applicant tracking system, then they're applying right there, and then you can just click them over to become an employee. If you're not using an applicant tracking system module, then you can just load the employee in the system. The system, whether it's QuickBooks or something more advanced, will automatically contact that employee. They can set up all of their tax paperwork, emergency contacts, so on and so forth, direct deposit information. And so they get all set up in the system on that technical onboarding side of things. Automating that is a must in 2025 if you're not already. And then the next thing I'd automate on top of tracking time off, like, oh my goodness sakes, when I talk about automating payroll, that includes tracking time off. But the next one is performance reviews. Let's save time. Let's reduce errors. Let's make this process easier on everyone, employee to manager, and automate these routine processes in HR. Okay, first trend or next trend that I'm seeing when it comes to HR in 2025 is an increased emphasis on employee well-being and mental health. It seems obvious, but it's growing and growing. Organizations are increasingly prioritizing comprehensive well-being programs. Used to be employee benefits programs when we were just talking about health insurance, maybe vision dental insurance. Now we're talking about well-being programs, including mental health support, flexible work arrangements, and wellness initiatives to enhance employee satisfaction and productivity. A couple of practical things you can do. Make sure that you're offering an employee assistance program. Some folks call this an EAP. You can partner with third-party providers to give employees access to counseling and wellness resources. I am a partner. So if you're a small business, like under 50 employees, I've got a partnership with an organization that will blow your mind in this area. It's so good and so amazingly affordable. It will only cost you $350 per employee per year. Hit me up. I'd love to talk to you more about this. It's the best tool that I found. I use it for my team, specifically at Salt and Light Advisors. It's what I provide for my folks. Next is when it comes to these trends and this number 2 trend on well-being is encouraging work-life balance, work-life integration. It's a work-life collision a lot of times. So introducing those flexible schedules, remote work options to support mental health and to reduce burnout. I was just talking to my EA this morning. We're like setting up my calendar for 2025 and finalizing some things. And I was like, I want you to block off Friday afternoons for me and everybody. I want all of us to not work on Friday afternoons. And in the summer, if we can get it done, we'll get the first couple of quarters of the year, we'll see. But in the summer, my goal is we don't work on Fridays. We'll move to 4 days a week that we're working. And then maybe in 2026, we'll stick with 4 days a week year round instead of just over the summers. But this is something that I want. And this is something that's important to me, and it can be done. It's been done over and over again. But whether it's flexible schedules, like at the beginning of the year saying, you can pick, it can even be something simple like this in a professional organization. You can say, would you like to work from 7 to 4, 8 to 5, or 9 to 6? Would you like a 30-minute lunch or a 1-hour lunch? And just let people at least, to me, that's pretty archaic, but I get it. Like a lot of us are, it's been hard for us to make this flexible transition. So if just at minimum, you just offer that. You want to start at 7, 8, or 9 in the mornings, end at 4, 5, or 6. Do you want a 30-minute or a 1-hour lunch? Even just offering that, albeit small, it's a great place to start. Okay, third continued trend that I'm seeing is a focus on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I know that a ton of organizations have cut their directors or heads of this program, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. I don't know that we need to have a specific carved out program, but this needs to be weaved throughout our organization. This is going to remain a central focus with companies implementing strategies to create inclusive cultures, address unconscious biases, and ensure equitable opportunities for all employees. And I think in the past, we've thought a lot about race when it comes to this, but in this last season, we've thought about political affiliation, therefore religion and things like that. But I have a recent diagnosis when it comes to how my brain works. And I think we'll see a lot more organizations also focusing on neurodivergence and making sure that we're accommodating individuals who are different in that way. I think that's going to be the way this new trend moves. So a couple of things that we could do practically in our organizations. We can audit our hiring practices. One thing that you can do is blind resumes. So if you work for a large organization, you got a lot of resumes in, you could do blind resumes that don't include names or photos. And by eliminating those at the first blush, that makes sure that we're not like being biased against, let's say, maybe an Indian individual who has a unique name, or a Black individual, or somebody who has an African individual, somebody who has a unique name. And therefore there's this bias that happens, especially for white folks who are like, oh, I can't pronounce their name. Therefore, there may be a language barrier. And I don't love that this happens, right? But I'm just being honest. This is what happens. And so blind resumes is one thing you could do. You could also standardize your interview questions. I highly, highly recommend this. If you use our hiring guides, we've got standard interview questions and a standard hiring practice that you can implement. That helps reduce bias. So that way, when we're interviewing, we're not like chit-chatting it up with the person who's more personable. And then we're like, therefore, we think they're better for the job, which isn't always the case. Or, a person who's a little more dry or maybe a little more introverted or a little more nervous. Maybe they're not the great conversationalist. So we assume they're not as good at the job. Very well may not be true. And so those are a couple of ways that we could reduce unconscious bias in recruitment. Another thing that we could do is provide training in this area. So conducting regular training for employees and managers just to foster an inclusive culture. Okay, fourth trend I'm seeing, upskilling and reskilling initiatives. And I've done a previous episode on upskilling specifically. And so I will link that in the show notes, but that's going to be a helpful resource to you. We're going to continue to see this need. Rapid tech advancements necessitate continuous learning. Most organizations are investing in upskilling or reskilling programs to equip employees with the skills required for evolving roles. Couple of things that you could do practically: create a learning budget. You need to allocate funds for employees to take relevant courses or certifications. Just bake this into your P&L. So that way, when it comes up the next year, folks can take advantage and it's not above and beyond the budget. Taking that a step further, letting each employee know based on the level of the organization or what have you, how much is allocated toward them. And then also letting them know where to find courses. Because if we just say you've got $1,500 or $1,000 allocated towards you for learning, but we don't say, so you could take classes on LinkedIn, or you can take classes on our learning management system if you have that in your HR payroll software, or you can, be a part of the chamber, or give them some ideas. They're probably not going to spend the funds and they're not going to find it to be beneficial to them. Another recommendation is that you can host internal training. So use in-house expertise or free online platforms to teach employees new skills aligned with company goals. You could do a really quick search out there on free online trainings. You can open up ChatGPT and see what are the most common things that employees are needing training on in 2025. Take a look at that and then look for free online trainings of what companies are providing them. And just look on YouTube, honestly, for goodness sake. Even my podcast is out on YouTube. Everything's out on YouTube now. And so you can even, if you're wanting to make it like a team building experience, you can literally have somebody welcome everybody in. Maybe you have lunch, maybe you have bagels, maybe you don't do any of that for budgetary reasons. You have everybody in, or the relevant people in, somebody welcomes them, says why we're doing this training today. Everybody sits and watches the training together. Maybe it's short clips of it. Maybe it's a 30-minute training. And then afterwards, somebody facilitates the conversation around what they learned. Boom. You've added a learning and development program. Let's calendar that out. Let's do it once a month. And you're doing it. This is a DIY approach and it could be free. Amazing. Okay, fifth continued trend that we're going to see in 2025, the adoption of hybrid and flexible work models. We've been talking about this for years, since COVID, and this is something that's not going away. The shift toward hybrid work models continues, with companies balancing remote and in-office work to meet employee preferences and operational needs. This approach aims to enhance work-life balance and productivity. Couple of things you can do here. You could survey your employees to gather feedback to understand preferences for remote, hybrid, or in-office work arrangements. That's one thing you could do. I conducted a survey for one of my clients on this. I was so curious to learn that only 2 people in their organization really, really wanted to work remotely. So what we did is we set up an option. You get to choose once a year if you want to work in seat, hybrid, or remote. And then based off of that, they also got to choose what their schedule, like if it was hybrid, which they all ended up going hybrid for team cohesiveness reasons, but how many days a week they're going to be in office versus at home. And then we just put some simple ground rules on communication, team meetings. Those folks were satisfied, but we didn't offer this big program like, oh, everyone's going to work remotely 3 days a week when only 2 people wanted to do that. And again, I was surprised because I love working remotely, but it's not for everybody. So survey your folks. The next thing when it comes to remote, flexible, or hybrid work is making sure that you're equipping your remote teams. So providing tools like, of course, laptops, project management software is going to be really helpful with this, and communication platforms for remote work success. So if you're like me, I use Microsoft Outlook. I bought the whole package. So it comes with Teams, it comes with OneDrive. And what we've done as a team is just formalize how we use it. When do we use chat? When do we use email? When do we use video? Which I use video almost every single time. That's my number one preference just because it keeps us connected. If I'm on a phone call, I am goofing off. I'm not gonna lie. I'm goofing off. I'm not paying attention. But if I'm on video, which is what we do, and I don't say like, oh, it's required. We just make sure that we're interacting in a way that that's highly engaged. I'm not talking, I guess I would say at my people. I'm talking with my people. So there's a difference there, but making sure that your remote teams are equipped to maintain engagement. Sixth trend I'm seeing for 2025, enhanced use of people analytics. Yes, I'm so thrilled to see this. Data-driven decision-making is becoming integral to HR strategies. How has it not been already? I don't know. The organization where I started at over 20 years ago in HR, we were using data before data was cool, but it's becoming popular now. I'm freaking thrilled. So utilizing people analytics helps organizations understand workforce trends, predict turnover, and tailor employee engagement initiatives. So what are a couple practical things you can do? Start simple. Use spreadsheets or basic tools to track key metrics like turnover rates, engagement levels, and absenteeism. That's a great place to start. Also track average tenure. Also track exit survey feedback. There's a ton of things that you can track. But if you'd like, you can go to ChatGPT, type in what are the top things that an HR pro should track to help with employee engagement and retention. That's just an example. And it'll spit out some ideas for you and even tell you how to track it. The next thing you can do is use free analytics features. There's platforms like LinkedIn or Google Analytics that can help analyze workforce trends and hiring performance. Also, spoiler alert, I'm going to say it again. You can take your HR data, upload an Excel spreadsheet into ChatGPT, and then say, give me the top takeaways that you're seeing in my HR data when it comes to trends. Voila. Then you can say, based on this, make recommendations to me on how to make a positive impact on these trends. It will spit it out. It's magic. Just use it. Okay. Seventh thing that I'm seeing for 2025 is a focus on leadership development. I am so happy to see this is back. I'm so happy. When COVID happened, or anytime there's economic trouble, if you have ever worked in T&D or L&D, so learning and development or training and development, folks, you are almost always the first to go. You're getting cut. And it's so sad because so here we are, 5 or 6 years later, and what's happening? We don't have the skills we need for the folks in the seats that they're sitting on the bus. So now we're working on upskilling and reskilling. I love that leadership development is coming back around. I love it. I love it. I love it for HR pros. I love it for keynote speakers. I love it for authors. I love it for content creators. And I love it for employees that organizations are seeing this as a need. Developing leaders capable of navigating complex, rapidly changing environments is a priority. We know it. Programs emphasizing emotional intelligence, adaptability, and strategic thinking are being implemented to cultivate effective leadership. Problem-solving skills, sign us up. So what are a couple practical things you can do? You could implement a mentorship program. You can pair emerging leaders with experienced mentors to foster skill development and growth. If you're having issues with this, call it a peer mentorship program. Sometimes people get weird because they're like, I'm not the mentor or whatever. Call it peer mentorship. Ask them to meet once a month. And then one of the things that I did at mortgage operation when I was the director of learning and development, I sent out a survey to the employee population. I said, who wants to be a mentor or a mentee? Got the names of those folks. And then I paired them up based off of cross-departmental relationships, leadership levels, experience, so on and so forth. Tried to pair up females and females with males and males. Just, it was a young organization. I'm trying not to facilitate like affairs. I know that's real talk. But anyway, I set that up and then I gave them a list of topics they could talk about, a list of questions that they could talk about, but I just asked that they meet once a month. And then I would give $20 a month to each of the relationships so they could go buy coffee if they wanted to. Not all of them wanted to. Some of them wanted to meet on site. That was totally fine. We put a budget to it. You wouldn't have to. And then at the end of 6 months, I sent everybody out a survey. Are you finding value on this? What could we do to help facilitate? So on and so forth. And at the end of the year, would you like to continue on? Yes or no? Would you like to be paired with someone else? Yes or no? It was really simple. It takes a little bit of oversight, but I literally just spit out how I ran that program. If you want someone to run it for you, my firm can do that. But I'm telling you, you can DIY this. Also, another fairly simple suggestion is just to offer leadership training. You can provide workshops or webinars on topics like emotional intelligence, decision making, problem solving, conflict resolution, crucial conversations, all of these things. Just set up a calendar of 12 months and pick, one lunch period and offer this as an opportunity. Don't make it required unless unless the person's got a developmental need and they need to be there. Make it optional the first year and see what you get. But if it's not value added, if they're not finding value, then you're going to learn really quick. Like it's a you problem. You didn't set up the program very well. 8th trend that I'm seeing is implementation of pay transparency. We thought this was going to be a requirement. It is in a few areas. It didn't take flight the way that a lot of HR pros thought it was going to take flight in 2024, but I still think we're moving toward it. Increased focus on pay transparency aims to address wage disparities and promote fairness. Organizations are adopting transparent compensation practices to build trust and ensure equitable pay structures. So a couple things that you could do. You could publish salary ranges. What you can do on this is include salary ranges in job postings and discuss pay structures openly with employees. Here's the range. A lot of I've worked for a large university system and that's really common with them, but with private organizations, not as common, but it should be. Why are we hiding behind that? A lot of times we're hiding behind it because we're paying people like bonkers all over the place, underpaying, overpaying, and it would do you so well to streamline that. So speaking of, another thing you could do would be conduct pay audits. So regularly review salaries to ensure they are fair, competitive, and aligned with market standards. How can you do this? My team at Salt and Light Advisors does compensation data studies for nearly every client that we have. And then we also do them on our project. So I do that with all fractional clients, but we have several organizations. We do that when that's all that we do every year is just a compensation data study. And essentially what we do is we take the name of each person, the title of each person, the tenure of each person in the organization, and their tenure history. So what roles they've been in, and so on and so forth. And then we take that information. I pay thousands of dollars for a system that gives me great market data. Very pricey, but it's worth it. And then I send you back per person, per job title, the 10th, 25th, mean, 75th, and 95th percentile. And then what I do is take the job titles and then say, here's what your range looks like. Here who is underpaid, overpaid. And then I give you recommendations on either increase buckets or how to level set across your organization. It's magic. And I want to say it's fairly simple for me to do. I mean, it's a little time intensive, but I love it. It's one of the favorite things that Salt and Light Advisors brings to our clients. And it brings a ton of value. And let me preach. Here's what it's going to do. It's going to help you hire people at the right pay. It's going to help you wave farewell to people if they're asking for too much. And it's going to help you know what to do when it comes for promotions. It's also going to help you budget for performance reviews. It's magic. It's so good. Okay, 9th trend I'm seeing for 2025, integration of VR and AR. So virtual reality and augmented reality when it comes to training. This one I know seems like a little bit of a stretch, but if you listen, I had an episode, I featured Lydia Melton. She's the chief of staff at an organization called Helium, which is a virtual reality, augmented reality organization. Amazing. Founded by one of my dear girlfriends, Sarah Hill, based out of Columbia, Missouri. So innovative. But This is something that any organization can implement for lower cost than what you would think. So VR and AR technologies are being utilized for immersive training experiences, enhanced learning outcomes, and engagement in areas such as onboarding and skill development. Also, one of the biggest things that I'm seeing is when it comes to well-being for brain breaks and things like that, it's magical. So what are the practical things that you can do? You can start with affordable solutions. So use free or low cost VR or AR apps, which Helium has one, by the way, for training simulations, such as safety protocols or role play exercises or for those well-being time breaks that I was talking about. Or you can partner with vendors. So collaborating with training providers that offer VR, AR programs tailored for your business. Okay, 10th and final trend that I am anticipating for 2025 is strengthening organizational culture. And I feel like this goes hand in hand with the increased focus on learning and development. And I'm so happy it's back. It just feels right. Aligning organizational culture with business objectives and employee values is essential. Knowing what your mission, vision, and values are, naming that, integrating it into everything you do is a non-negotiable. Efforts to embed culture at all levels aim to enhance engagement, retention, and overall performance. So, what are the couple practical things you can do? You can define your core values by clearly articulating and sharing the company's mission, vision, and values with all employees on your website, on your job postings, during your onboarding process, during your orientation training, and then regular check-ins with all of it. Anytime your senior leaders are sending an email, tie it back to your values. It is so worth it. Tie it into your performance reviews, tie it into your hiring guides. There's a ton of ways to do this and make it forefront instead of some words that are up on the wall that no one has memorized. Salt and light. That are my company values at Salt and Light Advisors, bringing salt, which is wisdom, knowledge, truth, and understanding to a business, which is the reality of a business, and light, which is hope, encouragement, and a path forward. Those are the values that I live by, that my team lives by, and that we live by when it comes to our clients. So it doesn't have to be overly complex, but it needs to be clear. The next thing you can do is celebrate success. And I would say this is something that I am working hard on and I'm asking my team to hold me accountable on. I am a very driven individual, so I move the goalpost all the time, all of the time. And I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I reflected, I grew 30% this last year. And immediately I was like, 30%, I can do better than that in 2025 immediately. But I'm going to take the time to celebrate for sure. I've already made a plan. Essentially, I had a goal, a top line revenue goal. I'm projecting that we're going to be $3,000 after hundreds of thousands of dollars, $3,000 short of what my goal was. And so instead of we were going to all fly to a destination and have a retreat. We're still going to celebrate the year because we had an amazing year. We grew by 30%. I'm not going to knock that. So we are going to meet. I'm in the state of Missouri. My consulting firm's based out of Mo. And so we are going to meet at the Four Seasons in St. Louis, have a few days together as a retreat. We're going to relax. We're going to reflect. We're going to strategic plan, and we're going to grow together. Regularly recognizing and rewarding employees who embody the company culture through awards, through shout outs. We are meeting actually in a couple of weeks, or when this airs, we're going to be meeting the next week for our end of year meeting. We're going to celebrate successes at that time together and just break bread and have a good time. But these are ways that we can get back to strengthening our organizational culture. It's not rocket science. We just have to do it. By implementing these practical and scalable strategies, businesses can effectively address emerging HR trends without requiring significant resources. By proactively addressing these trends, organizations can create resilient, adaptable, and inclusive workplaces prepared to meet the challenges and opportunities of 2025. Now, should you just listen to me? I mean, sure, I am a bright person and I've been doing this for 20 years, but here's what I actually recommend. I'm glad that you listened to this whole episode up until this point. And those are things that you should be paying attention to. And somebody needs to be integrating that into your planning process. But the number one thing that I recommend to you above and beyond everything, survey your folks and see what they want and need. Employee satisfaction and engagement surveys are critical tools for understanding and improving the employee experience within an organization. They're important because you gain insight into employee sentiment. And this means you understand the workforce needs and you detect hidden issues. They also enhance employee engagement. This means you're boosting productivity, therefore impacting your bottom line. It also reduces turnover, which positively impacts your bottom line. The third thing these surveys do is it builds a positive workplace culture. It fosters trust and communication. If you do the surveys, discuss what you've learned, and actually take action. And then it helps you to align with the core values. That feedback helps ensure that the company's actions are aligning with its stated mission, vision, and values. The fourth thing these surveys do is inform strategic decision making. It can give you data-driven insights, which we talked about HR analytics and how they're on the rise. And it can also help you measure progress because we want to do this year over year. Fifth thing surveys do is improve employee well-being. It's going to help you identify stressors to make an impact on, and it's going to enhance support systems by identifying any kind of gaps in resources, career development, or team dynamics. They're also going to strengthen your leadership effectiveness because you're going to be evaluating management through these surveys, and it's going to promote a culture of accountability, which is huge. Results hold leaders accountable for maintaining a positive work environment. The seventh thing surveying your staff brings is fostering innovation and improvement. It's going to encourage bringing ideas to bear. And it's also going to empower ownership. When employees see that their feedback is implemented, they feel more invested in the organization's success. And the eighth reason why you need to survey your team is to demonstrate a commitment to your employees, show you care, and boost morale. Employee satisfaction and engagement surveys are not just tools for gathering feedback. They are powerful levers for building a thriving workplace where employees feel heard, valued, and motivated. By listening to and acting on employee input, organizations can improve morale, drive engagement, and achieve sustainable success. Listen, I know that following the trends, like these are HR trends, obviously, I live and breathe this. This is my life. It's been my life's work for over 20 years. But I know you're listening to this and you work in automotive, or you work in law, or you work in finance, or you work in construction, or you work in the medical field. So like HR, you're not living and breathing that, but you do see the impact that your people have on your business. Having the right people on the right seat of the bus in the right roles at the right time is crucial. So I know it can feel like chaos. Consider partnering with either an outsourced partner or bringing somebody in your organization to focus on this for you. The investment is worth it. So don't waste the chaos. Embrace it. Till next time.